What happens is we want to automate everything and we don't realize that the most powerful thing you can do is validate another human being.
Speaking of social media, you had a post this week that got a bunch of attention on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it was, everyone's talking about automation and AI and these things happen in the corporate business stuff. So I figured I'd write a little story that took people down this emotional journey. So if you'll indulge me, because it's 3 minutes long, right? So
Okay.
When I was younger, I met a girl who was fun and she had this spark and she was pretty. And because of that, she also had a lot of male attention. Mm-hmm. So we've been dating about 2 weeks and I knew we couldn't move forward unless we actually decided to actually date. So to shoot my shot, I sat down with her and I just told the story of us. Just a little thing this is how I met you. These are the things we've done. This is what you ordered at different times. This is what makes you smile. This is how you throw your hair. Just little bits and details that I'd paid attention. Well, yeah.
That's so sweet.
I list it. Here's some positive things you don't know about yourself. Here's a negative thing you don't want other people to know. I just kind of sitting there. I was on the floor. She was on the couch. And she just was quiet for a while. And then I sat on the floor and told her how much I liked her. And you could see tears welling in her eyes. And then you could see emotion. It was like a wave rising up over her. Mm-hmm. And she throws herself at me. And we started dating exclusively after that. And the weird thing is when you do that kind of stuff, people think, oh, that was desire, right? It wasn't that at all. It was relief. Mm-hmm. Because I think for the first time in her life, she had been aware that someone saw her. Mm-hmm. It's that desire to be seen. And it wasn't love. It wasn't like a rom-com where I'm sitting there going, here's my great love and here's the big reveal on the bridge. No, it wasn't like that. I was being heard, she was being seen, and that's where the passion came from. And so I wrote about that and I moved right into interviews and candidate experience because what happens is we want to automate everything and we don't realize that the most powerful thing you can do is validate another human being. So the problem is you have to get to that point. You have to live that story of us before you can validate it. If you just hand a bunch of things about a person, you don't really grok it. You don't grasp what's going on. And so as we talk about AI and automation, it made me think about selling for B2B selling. Mm-hmm. If you come and pitch me a story about a company and I go, oh, that's very interesting. That's a polite dismissal, mm-hmm. right? If you pitch me an idea and I go, that is amazing. I think you're going to do so well at that. That is a validation because I understood I didn't understand what your company was doing. Mm-hmm. I understood what hers was. And sometimes we need to pay attention to that because if you don't, you're not selling. You're just ticking off a list. Mm-hmm. You're basically losing what it meant to be human. Mm-hmm. So it was a nice little story. And then, now, it didn't last, by the way. We dated 11 months. Oh. But that was the problem because I didn't do my due diligence. We had different values. We were going different places and we mistook. It was like speed. Don't start a relationship on a high note because it did. We just had never felt that. So you have to do both sides. But it was
interesting.
It was a well-received story.
Or she was just an Aries and we get bored really fast.
When was her birthday? I think it's because she's from Indiana. I think that was the problem.
Once we lose that spark,
it's
I'm like,
Aries or Indiana.
Aries from Indiana.
Oh, boy.
So it's interesting that you say that. I'm actually looking for a book. I'm gonna have to find it and maybe put it in the show notes in the future. But there's a conversation I had with a client yesterday who is they're in love. They want to get married, and I said, "Hey, while you're at it, why don't you get this book and I'll send it to you?" And it's I think it's 13 questions. I think maybe that's the name of it, but it's something like that.
Actual love or like the company?
If you're going to get married, you should know the answers to these questions, right? It's like, who is it that you may believe that your relatives are the best person to raise your children, but your other may say something else, right? So these are those kinds of questions, and you should probably know the answer to those before you get married, because these are fundamental questions that will drive a relationship apart, money, so on and so forth. So anyway, I just find it fascinating because, again, people get so enchanted, and then, you try it on, and then you realize, hey, it's really tight on my toe or something, right?
Not tight on my toe.
Coming up with shoes, you don't buy a shoe until you try it on, right?
I've never heard that one before.
That's my favorite one so far.
I love it.
So ultimately, these are really important questions to ask, and that gets to the same thing that you're talking about that gets lost in translation whenever you're communicating side to side, which is like you look at a piece of paper or a video clip, that's just one spotlight second. To have somebody, I think, I remember it was a guy who was in talent acquisition. He had his own consulting company, and he was like, look, I have a stable of people that I've kept, that like I've gotten them promoted, I've gotten them, moved them from one place to another, and I know what I'm working with. These are, known quantities. How do you get in there? How do you get in good with those people that are going to help move you forward? Like, it's not just like one resume.
It's verifying over time. It's exactly what we talked about last week. We have this sense that, oh, Frank's a really good guy. I have no clue. I've never worked with you. We've never put money on the table together. You seem like a good guy, but I don't really know anything about you.
Yeah.
3-4 years, and we did business together. Now this is what happens when he gets angry.
If I do it right, you'll never know.
Yeah. But this also goes back to the conversation of what people are seeing on social media. So what blows me is like, it's, they're seeing this perfect images on your social media, and they're like, oh, I want to be with her. I want to take her out.
Why doesn't my girl look
it's
like
almost,
that? Why don't I look like that?
And then the comparison happens, but it also goes back to, I always have this conversation with my friends, Dina, you can be with whoever you want. Yeah, but it's just that they like the idea of a situation, not really doing the work. They like the idea of what they see, and there's no verification. I don't have a blue check, by the way. But there's no verification over time. And then once they get to know you, right? But it goes back to what we're presenting on social media and the importance of authenticity.
And people now stay off of that too. So I would suggest this, but every once in a while, if I'm going to date a girl, I definitely look her up on the Bureau of Prisons.gov to make sure her name.
Make that mistake one time.
Make it one time.
To be fair, you do want to do a background check on people.
That gets a little creepy because I do that for a living. I literally do it for a living. I can look up anybody, and you want to give people the freedom to be who they are, but if you don't, it's one thing for women saying there's a safety issue that they're concerned about, but there's also, is the guy married? Does she have 2 kids?
Exactly.
Is this part of a scam of some kind?
Exactly.
So there's this. But if you do that too much, you reach a point. Basically, it's because we don't.
You really kind of lose your faith in humanity
if
at that
really
point.
Knew people,
yeah.
It's like interviewing for a job. If you were actually honest about how you worked and they were honest about what they were doing, nobody would ever hire or get hired.
So I don't want you to give it away because obviously, there's probably money in that. But how do you fix that? How do you
go back to old school? Meeting with people, saying hello, shaking their hand, work with them, living life together.
Better pre-qualification, because that what you suggest doesn't scale, and that's the problem, right?
So maybe it's not. Maybe that's the point. We keep trying to scale everything.
No, but like
instead of just focus on the people around.
But you have to scale if you're going to service a large scale organization. Like you did sourcing for very large organizations, and you're trying to hire
sincerity at scale. That's correct.
5,000 baristas for a hotel across the country. How you can't do that at that scale, so you got to pre-qualify somehow so that you can actually make a connection with the individuals that make it through the net, right?
Yeah. Well, you can do that, but then I think that we at this focus on people just can't do it. It's like having 1 million followers on Instagram. You look at this stuff they're doing.
You're certainly not going to please them all.
Well, then you'll try though. You keep going back and doing dumber and dumber stuff because you're chasing that dopamine rush.
People need validation.
So, are you saying basically, like my theory on social media, that large scale social media is doomed because of this problem? That large corporations are also doomed?
I think I'm probably saying we should all live in the mountains at high altitudes in a few years with a small group of people.
So
it's hard not to go there, but that's not it. But you should at least try that a little bit. So it's not always scale, is what I'm saying.
This section is super profound to me, and what Jim said to trigger this, you said if the employer and prospective employee was honest, then no one would get hired. Is that because their interests are misaligned fundamentally? And
it could be. It's more.
It's more basic.
It's basic human stuff because it's the same thing with dating. It's the same thing with investing. No one's perfect. There might be a few people out there, but no one's perfect. And a lot of it's, it's not. It's a good interview isn't about you never making a mistake. It's about you understanding what those mistakes were and routing around the damage. And that's what people don't grasp is you can make a mistake. The
Mhm.
question is, how did you address it? If you cheated in a relationship, that doesn't make you a bad person. If you think that your justification is still okay, that's what makes you a bad person. You can learn and grow and not do that. But if you don't ever admit it, figure out what was wrong and decide what that behavior was. Oh, you overspend. You don't clean your room. Whatever it is, those are things that can be fixed if you choose to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is that if we tell somebody, yeah, I used to be a hoarder and I've never cleaned my room, nobody wants to be around you because they're afraid that you'll lapse back into it. I used to have a drinking problem. They're terrified you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
I stole $4.5 billion and put it in a Dropbox.
I mean, it happens.
Very
to
hard to
everybody.
recover from that.
Mhm.
And
Well,
you wrapped.
Well, there's no recovering from the wrapping.
That's
That- you
true.
can't-
White
you
people
can't
should not rap.
Fix bad taste.
Old white people shouldn't rap, but now I'm seeing her. I mean, never mind. There's Krayshawn. Never mind. So that's taking it back to verification over time versus like the background check mentality. It's like if you don't believe that people can be rehabilitated, but that's the goal, I think, for a lot of people in modern society. So this verification over time thing is starting to make more sense to me versus being a concrete. Oh, at one point in time you are verified.
Right. It's also a matter of risk, and we don't always grasp that. Everything is a risk. Everything in business is a risk. Nobody wants to have any of the consequences. So whether it's dating or driving to downtown to go to a hockey game or having your kids play out in the yard alone without people don't understand risk tolerance. And then immediately they jump to the shoe or this is a bad person. And
Hey, thanks for watching The Merge. We've got a ton more stuff for you to watch on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. Check us out.